everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And on a cool, rainy June morning, it's pretty miserable outside. I thought I'd do a solo game of Anniversary. This is the 1942 setup, so you can see that the Japanese are, doing their empire building shtick, and the British don't have quite as much money as they normally do, and the Germans are at the gates of Moscow and Stalingrad. But, of course, as you know, in this version, the Japanese go first, then the Soviets, then the Germans. So the Russians do have the initiative on the Eastern Front, and so that just makes it a fairer fight, because obviously this could end on round one if the Germans went first. I'm not doing a bid for this game, but mainly because I'm playing solo, but also because this one is quite a bit more balanced than the 41, which requires a bid for the Allies to be competitive when you have equal players. And I'm kind of equal with myself as far as I know. So we're going to get right at it. I am using the dice here that were gifted to me by Triple Crown. All right, so the ones, the twos, the threes, the fours. And he was kind enough to give me two sets of these, and so we're going to use them today and see if they like one side or the other a bit more. And we'll let you know how round one goes. We'll see if Moscow gets a reprieve right after this. All right, round one is done, and boy, these dice are hot. Holy cow, there was a lot of hits in this game. But we'll start over here in the Pacific, and of course the Japanese came over and did their shtick, but ended up losing some stuff. But the Americans were able to take care of some business on their end of things. Brought over some air power, lost a sub and a fighter, taking things back, but also, of course, lost their carrier, fighter, and destroyer to start with. So quite a bit of stuff. Japanese lost a carrier and a destroyer and a couple of fighters, and a sub. So pretty even Steven. Japanese are doing pretty well, though. Over here, the Soviets brought some guys over, but most of their stuff is headed back this way. They did bring a couple of men into China to perhaps bulk up a little bit there. Japanese tried something here I haven't tried, I don't think, in 42, and that's the two factory build to start. Of course, they're making 31, and so we're going to do that, and we're going to see if we can just overwhelm. Now, since I did that, as Britain, certainly do not then build a factory in India, because that's just not going to last, which does make it tough to hold on. So, Japan's not strong enough to attack this right now, but next turn they will be, and it'll probably fall, and then the next turn, build a factory, probably have some tanks here, and all of a sudden you're threatening the Caucasus. So it's is a tough one for Britain to defend. Just not enough stuff. They brought their destroyer out of the Med, of course, to try to save it. It's not safe, of course. The Japanese are here, and they can bring the battleship and the carrier and the fighter to kill it, but then they're way out of position, so that's probably not going to happen. Brought the troops from South Africa up here to French West Africa. Now, they could be sunk by the bomber, so Germany will debate whether or not that's a good idea. The Germans and Italians really bulked up in Africa here. Again, debating whether or not to build a factory in Egypt. I debated that for quite some time and decided not to. We're going to focus on really putting the pressure on Germany directly instead of worrying about nickel and diming all over down here. That could be a poor decision. We'll find out momentarily. The Germans actually lost territory in the east, but what they did was consolidated everything. So they are in a good spot now to take the Caucasus, possibly, or there and there. They could probably take Karelia this turn, depending on how Russia plays it. But either the Caucasus or Karelia will likely fall this round. Germany got bombed by the British for one, and then they shot down the American bomber that was already in Britain in the 42 setup. So that's the one that we flew over from the eastern U.S. The British built a carrier and a couple of destroyers, and they are just too strong for the Germans to really come at. Now, it's kind of the thing you just gotta go whole hog. So we've done that, and Germany will have to decide what to do. This fleet here, of course, they could sortie that along with, at this point, 3 aircraft. Likely not enough, and will lose all their aircraft in their fleet. And, you might hurt the British a bit, but they can take the carrier at any time because they can land in the UK. Of course, Northwestern Europe just decided to be cheeky, brought over 2 infantry divisions from Canada to place them there, just to give the Germans something to shoot at. And over here, the Americans built 2 more transports and 4 men and a bomber. And lots of stuff going on in the Atlantic to head over towards Europe and try to take care of things. That's pretty much it. Not much else to show. Forgot to put the Americans on for their money. Kind of funny how you forget these things sometimes. But America is sitting at 38, of course. And everybody else is where everybody else is. So Soviets are up a couple, Germans down a couple, Japan is up a couple, and Britain is up a couple as well. Oh, I think I forgot to move Germany down from the Northwestern Europe. There we go. Because they start 37, 35 for the loss of the 2 Soviet territories, and then 2 more. So there we go. That's what it's all balanced out at. And Italy didn't bother taking anything because, of course, we don't want to stick our neck out too far too soon. All right, round 2's coming up. And time will tell if this was a good decision to go more Atlantic. And we'll see if the Japanese need to be forced to take some action they might not want to take. But they get to go first. Let's see what they do. All right, turn 2 is done. And we have, it's just heating up, actually. A little bit of posturing by both sides, but we did have a little bit of action. The British have moved out of India because there's just no way they could withstand this. So they've decided to retreat and hopefully live to fight another day. Chinese, of course, aren't doing any attacks. They just are trying to bulk up. A little help from the Soviets, but now the Japanese have their 6 tanks on the mainland along with some air. So we'll see what happens with all that. They do have to watch these 7 Soviet divisions, though. Over here, the Germans did have a pretty good round. They were able to take Egypt and only lost a couple of men doing it. Some very, again, hot dice for the attackers in this game. But not hot enough to take a poke at the Caucasus. I figured I'm going to bulk up a little bit more. Here comes some help from the Italians. And we're just going to try to hit it with more than just a little bit. And who knows, maybe even threaten Moscow directly. Make the Russians attack next turn. Just too big a stack there. I think there's 10 or 11 in there. Up north, on the other hand, was an opportunity. There were 7 infantry defending, and I think the Germans lost 6 in the attack. So some pretty good rolls by the Soviets defending, of course, but there you have it. And a decent Russian force in Belarusia, but not much in Moscow itself. But no real great opportunities for can openers because the Germans go before the Italians, but after the Soviets. So the Germans would have to do the can opener, and then the Italians rush through. And at this point, they only had 1 tank in the vicinity from the opening setup. So that's where we are now. And Germans got bombed for 5. They lost their fleet to the British, and the British took Norway. So, not much there, of course, just a man and a tank, so the Germans might try to dispatch that with air power and whatnot. Trying to build up a decent transport fleet here, and that has been my goal here, is kill Germany first, and you can see that the Americans are definitely doing that. Bought a carrier here, and a couple more transports, and a lot of stuff to load onto the transports. Maybe another round of building up before we start heading over. We'll see. But the Italians, no more tanks. Now you got to build the 5 men. Kind of scripted in Anniversary, unfortunately. But that's just the way it is. British kind of hung out here. There's nowhere really to go. Nowhere safe. So they're just going to stay there for now. We were going to come on up north and join the fleet in 7, but I took the opportunity to kill the German fleet, which was probably a good idea. And the British destroyer that started up in 15, up by Cairo, has come all the way around here. That's pretty much it for round 2. Round 3 is coming up. Japanese have some momentum now. Of course, India is going to fall. Egypt is gone. So the British are pretty much going to be losing all of this. It's all going to go away. Their account is going to start to dry up a little bit. So taking Norway was very important. And we'll see if the Americans could come on over here and maybe liberate some of these islands and get the British economy back a little bit stronger. But you can see the Americans aren't building anything in the Pacific, so this might be a good round for Japan to pump out some boats and threaten the meager fleet that the Americans have. I think that's probably what we might do. I gotta go ump a baseball game right now, though. So we're gonna go do that. The rain stopped and they're playing, so when I come back, Japan gonna be on the attack. All right, turn 3 is over. Heading on to turn 4. And the Americans, with their meager forces, trying to get out here a little bit. This got them an extra $5 this turn. So, because it's one of their NOs, is making sure that some of these islands are still in Allied hands. So that's pretty good. Japanese, though, built some boats this turn, and now they have 2 transports and enough stuff to go cause some grief. Beat up the Soviets in Baratia, so they're all gone. Not without loss, but I think it was just infantry they lost. China is now on the ropes. China is down to that. That's all they got left. And likely going to get erased this turn. Lots of air power, some tanks, and even a couple of cannon fodder infantry. In India, got enough here. Probably be planting a Japanese factory here just to expedite the war against the Soviet Union. Soviet Union is going to start losing economy here pretty shortly. And they're going to be losing an NO because likely going to have some British stuff on Soviet soil soon. Was going to move these Brits up, but we decided to keep them here just to make the Japanese won't try to kill that, and the Germans might attack that, but Japanese don't have enough to ensure a victory here, and it would be kind of suicidal, I think, to do that. Over here, the Italians and the Germans now have a good chunk of tanks over here. This stack looks short, but there is a 10 underneath there. So they've got about 17 infantry in the Caucasus, 6 in Russia. They were able to take back Karelia and did it quite handily, actually. Didn't really lose a lot. But the Germans do have some good reinforcements here. They were able to build some units. Got bombed again, unfortunately, but the Germans decided to also turn the favor and bomb Britain. The Brits did land 8 units here, and now they have 5 transports, so that's 10 units a turn that can land. I think Germany's got to work hard to keep France, so we're going to be bulking that up. The Italians built 5 more guys here, and they might have to move 5 back because the Americans are here in force. They have now landed 12 units here, and built another 6 to come over right away. So might be getting the ping pong going back and forth, or we might really do some massive landings on France this turn. It's going to really decide what the Germans want to do. But the Germans right now are going to be building a lot of infantry as a delaying action to give the Japanese time and to put the pressure on the Soviet Union, because the Germans just don't have enough. This is a really, really tough game for the Germans to find success on the Eastern Front if the Allies are going to kill Germany first. It's just really, really difficult. But they did punch through into Africa, so they'll be gobbling up some more territory here. And, not a lot the Allies really want to do about that. Sure, you could bring a couple guys down here and probably kill that, although it'll be gone by the time it's America's turn. But Not really worth it. Not really worth it. And Britain's just going to be building a whole bunch of infantry each turn and trying to land and cause some grief there. But that's pretty much where we're at. I don't know if you can hear that. My son's practicing his drums. He's in a band, and they're on Spotify, but it's not really my style of music. It's called Kids Don't Float, and it's kind of heavy punk metal, I think it's called. Not my style at all. But he's the drummer for the band. But he also plays in a band at church too, so he kind of both ends of the spectrum there. But he's an excellent percussionist, and he's quite sought after. So good for him. I do not have the coordination to be a drummer. Anyway, back to the game. Germans brought some more guys over here, and now the Suez is well and truly blocked. Yeah, not much else. Not much else to talk about. American fleet's a little out of position, but the Japanese can't really get anywhere right now. Go to Alaska, I guess. But that'll just probably bring in a spike of American money over here. And they got quite a bit this last turn. They're up around 50, so they could answer that pretty quickly. And Japan will be having to build a factory and then start pumping more money into tanks. So just a natural progression of the game. And it'll be interesting to see on turn 4 if the Allies can land and stay in France, or if Germany's going to be able to hold. I don't think the Brits will be able to take it on their own, and they might lose some aircraft to the anti-aircraft gun. But they do have a bombard in the battleship. They do have a bomber. They got 2 fighters, and like I say, they've got the ability to bring over 10 units on transports, and the Germans have to deal with these 8 guys right now. So, all right, turn 4 is coming up. Some damaged factories, big stacks of Soviets, and the Chinese are almost gone. Turn 4 coming up. All right, turn 5 is about to begin, and as you can see, Japan has landed in Alaska with a little expeditionary force, which forced America to build a bunch of men and bring their navy back and fly some planes back, leaving Hawaii exposed. But you can't be strong everywhere, so they're going to have to likely lose one victory city here, and we'll see if that's going to be really telling during this game. Japanese built some subs here, but of course built their tanks, and of course built a factory in India. And China is no more, and Japan will likely take all of China here in just a moment. Soviets have had to put up blockers to do their best as they can at blocking the Japanese advance. And the British got hit by the Germans here and had a pretty good showing. We're able to take out about 4 German units, and then the Germans retreated with a lone tank, so the British hightailed it up into the Caucasus. Germans built a couple of tanks here, but the Americans are here, and they've got 6 units. So that factory might not have been a good idea, just in hindsight. But we'll see. We'll see. Not a ton of punching power here, but with 6 units, they might be able to last. You can see the Italian fleet is gone. They had a dust up with the American Air Force and Navy. The American Navy is gone, and they also lost a bomber and a fighter. So the Italians had a really good showing in that battle. France fell to the Brits, which then was taken back by the Italians, which was then taken by the Americans. The Americans did quite well. The Italians fired blanks. They only got 1 hit in that battle, and didn't shoot. Well, there was no aircraft to shoot down in that battle. So, and the British again, nice big fleet, lots of stuff to bring over. So it's looking like Germany's going to have to constrict a little bit. You can also see that the Italian tanks are no longer here, and the aircraft. They did a bit of a suicide run on the Soviets because it was really, they had 1 shot. They had 1 shot to take Moscow, I think, and now it's going to be a retreat back west because Well, the Italians had 5 tanks and a fighter, so they had 6 units going up against 11 men and a bomber. So, not horrible odds. Not horrible odds. On the first round, they got 3 hits, and the Russians got 8. So, that was just with the twos. Bomber missed. So, 8 out of 11 hits, which wiped out the entire Italian force. I thought maybe I'd be able to, if it went poorly, retreat with a tank or two and the plane, but they got everybody. So, yeah, looks like they're going to be in a bad way here. Got a big stack, about 20 Russian infantry here. Yeah, and they got some tanks and some men up here. Probably going to smash into that right now, and smash into that right now, and that'll be it for the Germans in Russia. And Italy's a bit hard pressed at this time. They do have 10 infantry at home, and they did collect 15 this turn, so they can build another 5 infantry, which should hold off the Allies for a while. And that's the idea, right? That's the idea, is to hold off the Allies long enough so the Japanese can start getting some units up into the Soviet Union. All right. Over here, no bombing runs this time. Everything was used in the attacks on France, so everybody's, or the German and Italian industry are okay. But the Brits did get hit for 6 damage, and yeah, that's pretty bad stuff. Which actually reminds me that I did not repair that. So I'm just going to take off 2 men. There we go. That solves that. Because, of course, you can't build in damaged factories. It's funny when you play by yourself, you sometimes forget these things. Americans have a huge transport fleet over here, ready to go, but with the Germans having another bomber and, enough stuff to reach out, they can't just come down here to 12 right now. Maybe they can now. 1, 2, 3. No, they can get all the way back to Germany. So it's until we get rid of the bombers, this transport fleet, we're going to have to build some things to help them out, or just go way up north first. Seems like a real waste of time, but maybe we'll just build a battleship and a cruiser, and that might be enough to dissuade the Germans from coming after some transports. Germany's gobbling up Southern Africa, pardon me. But might have to come back and help Cairo out here. But the Japanese can also lend a hand to Cairo. So, yeah, and the American transports here, they're gone, right? Because they went back to America or up to France. So these guys are kind of a one and done. And there'll be 2 more tanks sitting here at the end of this turn. Not much else going on. Not much else. The Japanese were bringing back the fleet to help out. Not sure. We've got fairly even odds here. Right, the Japanese have a sub in there as well, so they're 1 up on the Americans. So they might take a poke at that fleet. But you can see Tokyo is empty. But of course, an anniversary you can't get from San Fran to Tokyo at all. So feeling pretty safe about that. All right, so here we go. Turn 6 coming up, or turn 5, pardon me, is coming up. And yeah, see if the Axis are able to dislodge the Allies from France. And it'll just be a British show for the next couple of rounds. So if they can do that, maybe they can right the ship a little bit and build up enough troops to keep them out of the area. Time will tell. Turn 5 coming up. All right, round 6 coming up. You can see that the Americans have liberated Alaska because the Japanese, well, they skedaddled right down here, which seemed like a good move at the time, and that still might be. We'll find out because the Americans built everything here. 1 battleship, 5 destroyers. They had $64 because they were saving some over the turns, and there you go. So the Japanese, decent fleet here. And I think I've got to go after that. I've got to go after that because if I let that live, and with his air power, he'd probably take that. And I love, here I am speaking to him about him. That's actually me, but that would be the worst for Japan, is if American fleet like that gets to survive. Because next turn it's going to be like 5 transports, and now Japan's got to build at home instead of prosecuting the war further in. So as you can see, Japan just marches on. All of China has been subdued. And there was a close call here, actually. So the German tank from Transjordan blitzed up through into Kazakh and killed the Soviet, but died as well. But now it's open, and so the Japanese could have, on this next turn, take 2 tanks, plus these 5 tanks, plus these 2 tanks. So that's 9 tanks, plus the bomber, could hit Russia. And yeah, that would have been disaster for the Soviets. But this way, now only the 2 tanks can hit that, and of course that's not going to happen, and the Soviets are going to be able to bulk things up. They were able to kick out the Germans out of all of Soviet Russia, and then the Germans were just cheeky and put one in there. British tank came down to Bulgaria, picked that off. But it looks like the Eastern Front has been stabilized, so likely going to be some tanks being built by the Russians here shortly. They do have 4, but it'd be nice if they could match whatever the Japanese can bring in, and that'll keep them safe. The Caucasus is going to fall this turn, and likely some other stuff is going to fall here, but the Russians are kind of playing defense. Over here, the Germans have definitely stabilized the situation. They took France back with 12 units, didn't lose any. All the Americans missed, and yeah. So the British didn't have the horses to take out 12 units, so they took that out. It was a freebie, and built some more units to come on over next turn. Americans are over there, but will likely be landing those 12 units in Europe this turn. So the Germans are going to have to tool up for that. So it's kind of a static war going on here, a bit of a pitched battle, as it were, going on in Europe. In Africa here, a little bit of a stalemate, likely going to end this next turn because the Germans have now 4 tanks and the Americans have no reinforcements coming. And, well, it's just the way it is. Italian Africa is back in the hands of the Axis because, you know, Italian. And the Japanese, of course, creeping up here. And like I say, the Caucasus will definitely fall. That's just, it's too big of a target for the Japanese not to take. And they can put 7 tanks on there and 2 men, if the 2 men survive, likely not. Because there's a British fighter in there I thought I'd leave just so it's not a total walk-on. And that's where we're at. So, Japanese, not a ton of problems right now except for this. And if they take care of that, they're rolling pretty well. The Germans lost a lot of their income where they should have it. So they lost 5 up there, 2 there, 2 down there. But they've gained that balance here. They've got 9 here, and plus 1 in Poland. So they're actually up 1, if I did my math correctly, from their starting. Oh, no, they're tied. They're tied. All right. So it's, yeah, looking pretty much like we're in for a long haul here. We're in for a long haul. Unless the Japanese can somehow get to Moscow and take it in the next 3 turns, this could go on for quite some time. If the Germans just don't care about this, then yeah, these battles were pretty bloody. You know, of course, all the German tanks are gone. All the Italian support units are gone. And the Russians, you know, they lost a few units, that's for sure. But it's well worth it. And they didn't lose any tanks or artillery. They just lost tons of men. They lost about 10 or 12 men that turn. So, all right. So when turn 6 is raring to go, you'll find out what happens. Are the Japanese able to subdue this fleet? This fleet that has 6 destroyers, a cruiser, 2 battleships? Can they subdue it with 4 subs, 1 destroyer, 1 cruiser, 2 battleships, 2 fighters, and a carrier? And where are these 2 loaded transports going to go? Maybe they'll come down here and take care of Australia. Maybe they'll come back and take the Solomons. Who knows? Maybe these guys are going to head up to Alaska just to have some fun again. We'll find out right away. All right, round 7 is about to begin, and let's take a look at what's going on here. The Japanese did not go after Alaska, but America left that tank back there just in case. But you can see that the Japanese fleet had tremendous success versus the Americans. The Americans they both got 3 hits on the first round and I think 2 hits on the second round. And then the Yanks didn't get a hit after that, I think. Maybe one more. It's kind of hard to remember. But I know they just started rolling horribly. So this is the total death toll from that battle. The Japanese, not knowing how the battle would go, thought, I'm going to build 5 subs. It's nice to have subs. Well, Japanese also tried to take Australia and came down here and tried to fight the 3 infantry with 2 infantry, 2 artillery from Hawaii. And got no hits in 2 rounds of combat, or 3 rounds of combat, and eventually got wiped out by them. But then there were 2 naked transports sitting here, so I brought the bomber down, the American bomber, of course, and landed that in Australia. Japan might take a poke. You can bring 2 loaded transports. You can have 2 tanks and 2 men come down and take a poke here. Might be worth it, might not. We'll see. The British brought their destroyer over here. Might take a poke with the Japanese bomber. Not entirely convinced of that. Up here had some interesting goings on. The Japanese were able to take this because there was only a lone British fighter left, so they walked in and took that. But then the Soviets came back and took it with relative ease. Not too many losses. I think they lost 2 or 3 infantry. That was it. So not as big a deal as I thought it was going to be. And over here the Japanese had to kill the 1 British infantry. And so there's a lot of tanks now adjacent to Moscow. And they're going to get first poke, right? So we've got 1 bomber, 2 fighters, and 6 tanks going up against 8 infantry, a tank, a bomber, and a fighter. So I don't know. Mathematically, not really looking good for the Japanese. But waiting 1 more round will make it nigh impossible. And another option, of course, is to go into the Caucasus with all the tanks they possibly can. So that would be, let's just see here. I guess I got 7 tanks there. So 7 tanks plus these 5. So they could have 12 tanks attack that. And depending on what is left over, it might be too much for the Soviets to do anything with. You can see it's very, very, very vacant out here. Soviets will have to build somebody in Karelia this round if they don't want the Germans strolling in. So that's going to pull away some stuff. They could move these units in to Karelia as well. So that is a possibility. Down here in Africa, of course, the big battle went on between the Germans and the Americans. And the Americans put paid to that whole "we learned from Kasserine Pass," and they did learn, and they were able to hold on. The 4 tanks fought against the 4 infantry, 2 artillery, and were unable to dislodge them. Likely going to dislodge them this turn, but it was a good stalling tactic. Kept Italy at $9. You can see that Rome is empty right now. And that is because I saved the Italian money, because they're only making $9. Now they have 18, and they don't get their bonus, of course, because they don't have Libya. So now the Americans were able to take France and took it rather easily, and the British were able to take northwestern Europe rather easily. And the Germans really don't have a lot of punchback. They've got 7 men, 1 artillery, and some aircraft. So, looking pretty bleak, but not impossible. But I suspect there's going to be a mass British landing. Might even take a poke right at Berlin itself this turn, because I don't think the Germans are going to be able to take out everything. And if they don't take out this American stuff, well, I won't say that's the game, because if the Japanese are able to take Moscow, that changes things greatly. So, we are going to have some fun here. The Americans, again, going full Atlantic, which really makes it difficult on the Germans and the Italians. I think in most of these games, if it's ever just a sheer commitment, then it's up to the Japanese to put pressure on, which they are. They undeniably are, but is it enough? Or is it too little, too late? Time will tell. Round 7. Will Moscow be in Imperial Japanese hands at the end? we'll let you know. All right, turn 8, and the march continues. The Japanese have pulled back to the Central Pacific here, but America is pretty much out of the war in the Pacific. They'd have to probably save about 3 turns worth of money, plop it all down at once. And of course, if I know that's happening, I'll fire up some more subs just to go have some fun. So it's not likely going to happen. The Japanese did come down and take Sydney. It was close, though. It was close. And the destroyer came and sank 2 naked transports. So, Japanese have no transports left on the map. Out of transport. Germany has more transports. They still got one over here sitting there. Just nobody's had to kill it because there's no real reason to kill it. Over here, the Japanese... I've never done this before. This is a first for the Hilltop Pillbox. A Japanese factory got built in Kazakh. Yeah. Not sure if that was a wise move or not. But didn't think I had enough to actually take Russia. Could have taken the Caucasus, but likely would have lost it again. So I decided to take Novosibirsk and to bulk up here with as much stuff as I could possibly get there. And, 3 more tanks are coming each turn there. And likely going to start feeding tanks up through China now. Because the Russians here can keep causing grief by plopping guys down in Persia, which they did this turn. A smart move. 1 less infantry to defend the Caucasus, but it keeps 4 tanks out of the region for 1 more turn. Germany was able to get rid of that lone American artillery for the cost of an armored division, but that was a good play because it brought Italy up to 10, plus they get their bonus now, so they are doing much better. Actually, no, they're not quite up to the bonus yet. I'm going to have to take something back because they don't have Morocco, Algeria. Sorry, Italy, you got to put 1 back. As soon as I said that, I thought, wait a second, I think Germany has to own that as well. So, yep, they don't have any. So, no bonus, but they did get $10 this turn. Last turn they had 18, so we just built 6 men there, and there you go. Able to go grab Northwestern Europe for the Germans, so they'll grab that. Germany did take France back, but there was only an artillery left, so all of the British troops in Northwestern Europe came down, as well as landing 9 or 10 infantry in France. So once again, Germany kind of holding on here. Built some artillery men and some tanks. And again, there's not enough punch here for them to really threaten Berlin. And there's some American stuff coming. So Berlin's not really in a lot of trouble. They're likely... well, they might be able to take France back. We'll see. But now Rome is under a little bit of threat. So, again, not a lot of punch here. Right, mostly 1s, few 2s, but not a lot of threat. But just the sheer numbers can sometimes be telling. And if they bring their aircraft that don't get shot down, that might have something to do with it as well. The Russians, of course, bulked up there a little bit. And so the Germans came down, killed the 1 Russian that was in East Poland and took Ukraine. So they get their 5 bonus for having those. The British bombed them for 3. And that is pretty much it for the story. So, kind of looking Allied favored right now. It's kind of what it's looking like. This will be important. If the Japanese take this and have enough tanks left over to withstand that, then of course all these Japanese tanks, and they can build here, can start moving westward. Oh, and for those of you saying that was a waste of money for the Japanese to build that, possibly, but I spent that. I also built 8 tanks, and they still had about $15 left over. So, yeah, I figured what the heck. So, this is going to be a very telling turn 8. If Moscow falls, I think we've got a game. If it doesn't fall, and the Japanese don't kill a whole bunch of Russians that are in there, the game, it's going to go on. It's going to go on. We'll see. Here comes the battle for Moscow. All right, the battle for Moscow is going to happen right now in real time. And it's pretty even here. I think the Russians have a little bit of an edge just because they've got the numbers here. They got 16 infantry plus a bomber, that's 17, and then 5 tanks, 22, 23 with the fighter. And the Japanese, who are punching a little harder but don't have quite as much stuff, they got one of these, 15 tanks, so that's 16, 17, 18 with the fighters, and 19. So slight advantage to the Russians, plus they've got the anti-aircraft gun, which we're going to shoot right now. And just to make sure it's all nice and above board, we're going to roll 2 of these. And we're going to use them on the fighters, and then the next one will be on the bomber. Okay, so the fighters are good. Uh-oh. So Japanese bomber just got shot down. So that probably tilts it pretty hard towards the Russians. But hey, this is why we roll the dice. All right, we're going to start with the artillery. Okay, so no artillery. Now we got 15 tanks and 2 fighters for 17. So here we go. 10 dice at 3. Okay, well that's right on the bubble. Got 5 hits. And then we've got 7 more. Ooh, 5 more hits. That's a little better. So that's 10 hits total. So that's going to take care of the red one and that stack of 5. We're going to hang on to that bomber for at least one more round. I don't think that 1 pip is going to make much of a difference. But if they can hold on to that bomber, it might help them with a little bit of offense next round. All right, so that's everything for them. So we're going to go to the bomber now on defense. Okay, nothing there. And now we have 16 of the 2s with the defending infantry. So we'll roll 8 dice twice. Okay, so that's 2. Put a little reminder there. And again. Oh, 2 more. So not rolling real well, but I mean we're already into the tanks, right? And that's the difference. And now we've got 5 tanks. Oh, that's not as good. So that's up to 5. And then we've got, of course, the lone 4 in the battle now that the bomber's gone. That's another one. So 6 hits. All right, so 10 hits for the Japanese and 6 hits for the Russians. Okay, that's evening the odds out a little bit. Still not great for the Japanese right now, but actually I'm going to put one of those back and kill that guy. He kind of blended in there. All right. So now we're down to 10 tanks and 2 fighters for the Japanese. So here's 10 tanks, and we got 5 and 2 fighters. Okay, that's exactly the right amount they should have gotten. They got 6 hits. So that is the rest of the infantry. All right, so now, oh boy, I wonder if I want to ditch the bomber. We'll let the bomber last one more round. I did that actually down in Australia with the American bomber. I left him there for the first 2 rounds. He got 2 hits. Go figure. So here's the Russian bomber. Oh, no joy. All right, now we got 6. Whoops, I'm going to roll that again. Okay, only 1 hit. Okay, so that's not so good. That's not so good. Only 1 hit. So now we got the 5 tanks and the fighter in defense. They need some more hits here. I only got 3. So that's 4 hits total. So those 4 go away. So 4 hits, 6 hits the first round, and 4 hits the second round. And so that's 10 to 16. All right. So, yeah, boy, this is going to be tight. All right, so now we've got 6 tanks and 2 fighters. So we'll just add those in there. 6 tanks and 2 fighters, 8 dice. Well, that's a good roll. He got 5 hits, a little above the average. So now the bomber's going to have to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Now, if they get pretty good hits here, that might cause a Japanese retreat. We'll see. So the bomber. Oh, finally takes out a tank. There's a hit. And then we've got the 5 tanks and the fighter remaining. So 5 tanks and a fighter. Okay. That's what I was kind of wondering, is when is it going to happen? They're going to have a big splash. 5 hits, and the fighter missed, notice. That could have been 6. Okay, so we're going to see what the Russians have left here. They just have a tank and a plane. We got 5 hits. So that'll leave us with 2 tanks, as we lose 2 aircraft and 3 tanks. That was a costly round of battle. So we got 2 3s versus a 3 and a 4, and there ain't no stopping now, boys and girls. 1 hit. And here's the Russian response. 1 hit. Alright, so obviously we're each losing a tank. Alright, so we're going to roll these at the same time. The green die is the Russians, the blue is the Japanese. And there you go. Japanese have failed to take Moscow this round. Although I think next round it's, well, who knows? Who knows? Alright, so you just saw the battle for Moscow. This is all that's left in Moscow, is a fighter. And there's some other battles that are going to be happening. I haven't really declared because who knew what was going to happen there. But anyway, all these tanks, of course, are going to be coming into Persia. Hey, why don't we show you that too? Look at that. Maybe the Russian defenders of Persia will stand tall. Nope. All right, so there goes the Russian. The Japanese will take Persia back. And the game will continue. All right, I'll let you know what happens with the rest of round 8 right after this. All right, well, you saw the big battle for Moscow, and that was pretty much it for big battles this round. We are going to do a quick sweep of the board so you can see what's going on. Japanese still holding tough in the Pacific. Built a factory down here. Not exactly sure why, except now I don't have to build transports to bulk up Australia. I know that's a horrible waste of money. But looks like they're doing pretty fine here. The Soviets, of course, used their money to build 6 infantry. And are trying to get guys back to help out Mother Russia. But it's going to be close, but I think we've got 9 tanks coming in to take on 9 infantry and a fighter. So maybe we'll show you that one in real time as well. Over here, the Germans went and got Morocco, Algeria, thereby getting the Italians their bonus. And they got their 15 this time. And they dropped off a tank in Rome just to bulk up with the defenses. The Germans built a bunch of men, artillery, and tanks here just to help out. They got bombed again just for 2 this time. They did shoot down the British bomber, though. Bomber Command lost a bomber. France is getting pretty full. Pretty full. Now, there's 2 reasons why the Germans didn't attack France. One, likely would have lost most of their ground forces going in, which would have left them open to an invasion directly into Berlin, because they wouldn't have had a ton left over. They probably would have been okay. But the Americans were going to be landing and would likely take it right back. And then the British could land another 10 units the next turn if the Germans weren't able to dislodge them. If they couldn't, then the Americans are building a factory in France. This way it has to be a British factory, which doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, it's we've seen this lots, though, haven't we? We've seen this lots, the Anglo-American landings, and eventually they take hold. But the Germans really, just gobble up a little bit more territory here. The Russians have got to abandon Karelia at this point. They just aren't going to be able to hang on to it. And the Germans are going to slowly start taking some other stuff back up there. The Japanese, I'm going to call it. I think the Japanese are likely going to take Moscow. Whether or not these 2 could take it back from them remains to be seen. But it's pretty much all over. But the Crimean, of course, the Caucasus, the Germans could have taken this turn. But they're going to leave it for the Japanese, because what do the Germans need with that factory over there? Although, the Germans aren't making a lot of money right now, so they probably could have used that. Ah, well, live and learn. All right, so we're going to let you know the Americans actually are going to have a little bit of a hiccup in their deliveries. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. But I had to be careful. I actually brought these guys out to here But then the bomber can actually go 1, 2, 3, 4, sink everything, 5, 6, and land in Morocco, Algeria this turn. So I had to go north, which of course is not much different from being there, unless you're trying to head down south, which we aren't at this time. All right, so turn 9. Turn 9, I'm calling it. Moscow's going to fall. But I'm also going to say Berlin is going to be under some duress. I doubt it'll fall. It's going to be under some duress. Rome might fall. They might go after Rome. Might go after Rome. But the Germans have quite a bit of punch right now, so they might actually take a swing at this stuff here in France and try to whittle them down a little bit. All right, turn 9 will be a very telling round, I think. Well, lucky you. You get to watch the Battle of Moscow two times in one. Wow, that was pathetic. Anyway, here we go. So we've got ourselves the aforementioned 9 infantry and 1 fighter versus 3, 6, 9 tanks, but they also have 2 bombers. Or do they? Let's see what the anti-aircraft dice think of that. Okay, well, that might have made a huge difference there. Okay, so we've got 9 dice at 3 and 2 dice at 4. This first round will be very, very, very telling, I should think. Here we go. Ouch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. Well, unless they also get 7 or 8 hits here, not really liking their odds. So we got 1 coming back at 4, and then we've got 9 at 2. All right, they need a good roll. Well, not a great roll, and their fighter missed. Only 4 hits, so we're going to take some sculpts off. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we have 3, 4, 5, and 2 bombers. Here we go. So 2 bombers and 5 tanks. So we're just looking for 3 hits. Looking for 3. We got 4. So that's it. Moscow has fallen. But what will remain? So 2 hits. Yeah, I think I can afford to lose tanks. That'll still leave us with 3 tanks. And that's it for Moscow. All right. So those are there. And if you're wondering where the bombers came from, they come from French Indochina. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and landing in Kazakh for 6. I built them last turn knowing that that's what I was going to do because I thought I might lose all my air power in that first battle, and I sure did. So the Japanese now have taken the Soviet Union, and the Soviets are going to cough up some cash here to the tune of 21 bucks because they got their bonus last round. So that's unfortunate. So it's 21 bucks goes in there, and they're going to be getting a ton of money. I'll show you what I did for Japan for their build. I do have some non-coms to do, but they're building a transport, which we are going to put here. Doesn't really matter actually, but actually, does it matter? Yeah. Anyway, we'll figure that out. And I bought 5 fighters because I figured, you know what, I'm going to have enough tanks. We got to get some fighters over to Germany to help them out. So there's 3 there. We'll put 2 here. And we'll put 2 tanks in Kazakh SSR. And then all these other tanks are going to be pushing forward. So Japanese are looking pretty unstoppable. They just went up 10 bucks on the income chart. So they're up to 61. And of course the Russians are off the chart now. They're off the chart. All right. There you go. Crazy. All right. Back to the game. Round 9 will continue. Round 9 will continue, except likely not for the Russians. All right, turn 10. Here it comes, and it's looking a little bit more like an Axis victory here. Looking like we're going to be done probably on round 12, maybe 13, but we'll still keep playing here. These solo games are kind of fun because you see stuff that you missed. And I missed a doozy. I missed a doozy that if I had seen it, I probably would have called the game at this point. But I didn't see it. Even after I think I mentioned it to you, I didn't see that it was actually a thing that could happen. So we'll show you what that's all about in just a second. As we know, the Japanese have run the table over here. They got everything they need to get, and then some. The Germans are gobbling up Africa. There was a British landing here, and the British landing has actually saved the Merchant Marine. I'm going to tell you why, but in a second. But here we see the British landed in Poland. I actually took every British unit that could reach Germany, lined it up on the battle board, looked at it, and it wouldn't even be close. There just wasn't any way for the Brits to crack that. There's too much stuff there. Too much stuff. And even if they had done fairly well, that would leave nothing for another wave, except what can come in on transports. And the Americans really don't have a ton of punch here. It just would have been ugly. It would have been ugly. So they're outnumbered almost 2-1 with what they could have brought. And they're shooting mostly ones. A handful of twos, I guess, but a lot of ones. And the Germans are shooting 2s, 3s, and 4s to beat the band. So, but what I didn't see, because when you play by yourself and no one's there to point out the obvious. I think I even mentioned about needing to keep care of the transports because of the German bomber. Well, I didn't notice it last round, actually. Out here I had 10 U.S. transports. 10. This bomber can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and could have landed here because Germany owned this, and I totally missed it. I'm not even going to blame fatigue or anything. I think it was just one of those things where who could think that a German bomber can go from Berlin to Nova Scotia and land in North Africa? Like, it doesn't even seem like something you could do. Had I seen that, though, this shipment here, all these would be gone. These guys would be stranded in eastern Canada. And these 6 boats were there as well. So that would have been 10 transports. A whole bunch of transports are now at the bottom of the ocean. I might have called the game at that point because that's going to be way too long to get things tooled up again. And by then, Germany's probably pushed everybody out, and the Japanese are lending a helping hand. So, we're going to keep playing, though. This is turn 10 coming up. Going to take a poke at New Zealand here. Got some bombards. Hope they don't kill my lone tank. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I just think that the Axis are a little too well dug in where they need to be. And the Allies, although, doing well, obviously, doing very well, just might be too little too late now that the Soviets are out of the picture. All right, America and the UK stand alone. Alright folks, well here we go. We're going to show you the battle for Berlin, and I don't hold out a lot of hope for the British here, but they do have 16 ones that can take a lot of punishment, but they don't really have an awful lot of pep except for that. And the real unfortunate thing here is unless Britain wins this, like going away, we've got some Japanese tanks and aircraft that are ready to take it back or reinforce it. And the Italians will definitely do a spoiling attack on the American troops in France. So I think this is pretty much over here. I'm assuming this is going to fail and fail hard. But hey, this is why we roll the dice, isn't it? So to start things off, we've got anti-aircraft here. Whoops. Alright, that's no good. And we've got a battleship bombard. Ooh, not a good start for the Brits. Okay. I mean, missing the aircraft was nice, but... So we've got 16 of the ones. So we're going to roll these white dice twice. Okay, so there's 1. 1 hit. Not so great. And then over here, oh, you know what? We might actually, I might have the wrong number here. We'll check. So we've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we've got, oh yeah, we've got 12. So yeah. So we've got 24 at 2 and 2 at 3. So 24 at 2. So we're going to roll 8 of these 3 times. So 2 more hits. So that takes that up to a 3. Oh, that's a good roll. 2, 3, 4, 5. So that takes it up to an 8. That's 8 hits. Another roll. 2 more takes it up to 10. And then we've got 2 fighters. 12. So 12 hits. That's not so bad. Not so bad. So 12 are going to come off here, and we'll lose these units here. Oops, actually we only need to lose 1 blue chip, and then that dude and that chip there. So we'll just do that. You think you're doing some good, and then you see, oh, they still got that left. All right, so now in retaliation, we've got 4 at 1. Here we go. Japanese bombers just landed. Okay, so I think that might be a little bit of a telling thing. Now we got 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 32. And we got 8 more. So we got 40 at 2. So 40 at 2. Let's write dice. 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 more. So that takes it up to 8. I'm going to get rid of these. We'll have. I think I'm going to need them. So that's 1 die, or 1 roll of 10. Second roll, got 2 more. Third roll, oop, only 1 more. And the final roll, 3 more. So that takes it up from 11 up to 14. Alright, and now we've got the tanks and the aircraft left. So I think we have 6. So we have 6 there and 3 green. 6 more hits. So we end up with 20 hits on the British. So that's all of them. So that's 16. And then these 4. Alright. So we got 12 hits there and 20 hits there. So yeah, we'll roll it out. We'll roll it out. But all those ones are gone. There were supposed to be some better cannon fodder, but a couple of good rolls by the Germans. All right, so we've got 8 plus 12, so we've got 20 left at 2. So 20 left at 2. 3. 3 more. 6. And then 2 fighters. Alright, so 8 hits. Alright. 8 hits. So that'll be those guys. Alright, chipping away, chipping away. That's funny, eh? They got almost as many hits as they did, and they're down 20 units. Alright, so the bombers, boy, they're doing alright. So that's 1 hit. And now we've got the 8. That's 12 is 20. 28. So we got 28 at 2. So we're going to roll 9 3 times and then 1. Actually, we can... Okay, we're going to roll 9. Whoop, mystery. Oh, it's a hit too. So that's 5. 7. 11. So 11 more hits. So that takes it up to 12. And then we've got the 6 blue dice. 2 hits that time. And then 3 green dice. 2 times. All right. So we're up to 16 versus the 8. So 16, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom, boom, bada boom. Yeah, so this is all over. This is all over. All right. Well, we'll roll it out to the bitter end. So we've got 4 red dice and 2 blue dice. Yeah, pretty good showing. 4 hits. Yeah, we'll kill the Italians. All right, well, we better put them on the casualty line or I'll forget. So the Italians have died. And now, see if these bombers are going to get one last hurrah here. And they do. Tell you, these dice, they do pretty well. So that's 1. Okay, gone. They only need a few more. We're going to start on the top end here, maybe shorten this up a little bit. 4s, 2 more hits. That's those 2. Need 3 more hits. We got 6 tanks. Keep forgetting, yeah, 6 tanks. Well, only need 3 hits. And there you go, folks. So that's it. So the British have been wiped out. And there is a ton of stuff left. And really not enough here to threaten it. They do have these that'll be available in 2 rounds to hit Germany. Those are available in 2 rounds to hit Germany. 1, 2, 3 rounds for those. But by then, like I say, all of this Japanese stuff will be there. So we're going to call this Axis victory. Of course, you have to go until there's 3. If you're playing out of box, right, you're trying to get 15 of the 18 victory cities, which essentially means you got to take London, right? We've taken everything in the Pacific we can take, so you got to take London, and then it's over. Or you could build up a big fleet and go after San Fran, I guess, which is kind of what I was doing here. I built a fleet here just to pull some pressure off, but now there's really no point in America sending stuff over to Europe, except to maybe send some stuff over to England and get a shuttle system going back and forth and maybe try to keep them alive that way. But really, it's over, folks. It's over. All over but the crying. And Africa's gone. Asia's gone. Europe's gone pretty soon. Because, yeah, there's nothing left in there for Britain. And even the Italians are probably going to take out the Americans here. Let's see if they do. Let's have some fun. What do you say? There we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 16 Italian infantry and 2 tanks versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2 tanks. Well, hey, these are odds are like number of pips is exactly the same, but the Italians have more units. So let's just see how this goes. Let's just have some fun. Look at this. Who knew you'd get to see all these battles today? Lucky you. All right, so we got 16 Italian infantry. So that's going to be 8 white dice twice. Well, they're hitting on the bombers. Let's see if these guys can hit. Oh, 1. 2 hits. All right, 2 hits. And then 2 at 3. 1 hit. All right, so 3 dead for the Americans. 1, 2, 3. All right, and now the Americans shoot back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at 2, and 2 at 3. So 8 at 2 and 2 at 3. 2, 4, 6, 7. Oh yeah, the other one's on the floor. Okay, here we go. And 4 back. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Italians bite the dust, and 3 Americans. All right. So now we have 12 at 1 and 2 at 3. We'll do those and those. Here we go. Ooh, look at that. So that's 1, 2, 3 hits. 4 hits again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got 5 at 2 and 2 at 3. 5 at 2, 2 at 3. Here we go. Oh, pretty good showing. 4 hits. So we're going to take out a red chip, throw in that. These guys are all dead. So I'll just need 3 more hits here from the Italians. Italians liberating Paris from the Americans in a British-held territory. You can't even make this stuff up. So we've got 8. Alright, so this is the whole attack now for the Italians. Oh, no hits on the whites, but 2. And coming back, we got a red and 2 blues. Oh, that's not good. So they're down to 1. They're down to 1 tank. And we've got 6, 7, 8, 2 blues. Oh, look at that. That's all they needed. The Americans are down to 1 tank left. Well, not down to, that's all they got. They got destroyed. Boom, gone. So look at that. And even France has just been liberated by the Italians. And there's enough stuff in there to probably not repel these two if they want to come in at the same time, but certainly enough to give them a nosebleed. All right, folks, well, really appreciate you watching, and we're moving forward in our Hilltop Goes to the Movies. So if you have any suggestions, as I've told some people, I spent about 10 hours putting together a great one that then I couldn't upload because of copyright problems on some of the clips I used. So that was a little annoying because it was a good historical film. But if you have any historical films that you look at and say, hey, I'd love for you to give your thoughts on this film, completely unsolicited advice I'm offering, or not advice, review, not advice. I am in no position to give advice. But I can give you some thoughts on movies, and if you haven't seen them, you can ask, or if ones that you know very well. I know this community has its favorite films, and I'm absolutely willing to talk through from both a historical but also from a filmmaker point of view. I'm teaching a film class at my high school in the next year, and I've been studying up on the different types of films we're going to be showing. And we will be showing lots of historical films. Well, not lots, I guess, but a few historical films. And hey, maybe I can use you folks for guinea pigs. Try it out on you first, see what you think. All right, thanks so much for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. And as always, as we say here, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing with you, and may the dice be with you.